Today's episode of Filmmaker U is brought to you by our sponsors OWC. Go to owcdigital.com for all your filmmaking and computer needs. And it's also brought to you by our other sponsors, AJA. Make sure to check out aja.com so that you can see how they can help you in your post-production needs.
Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com, or of course, follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_U. Every week we interview film professionals, and this week I'm joined by editor Lisa Robison, whose work includes R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour, The L Word, and more recently, Firefly Lane. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, you started off in camera. What made you want to start in camera originally?
Oh, this is a long time ago. I live in Vancouver, BC, and in 1986, before Expo 86, my brother said, "Can you help me shoot a little documentary of the making of Expo?" And I ran around with the cameras and I helped him, and that was a lot of fun. And then he asked me years later, I was a ski bum, so I was up in Whistler skiing, and about a year later, he said, "So what are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "You know, that day we ran around with the cameras, that was awesome." So he introduced me to one of the fellows that he worked with that did a lot of skiing films and commercials and things like that, and second unit in town. And he said, offer Kurt 100 free days, and that to get my foot in the door, because I hadn't gone to film school, I hadn't done anything film oriented. So I went to Kurt and was one of the few women that were wanting to work in film, and Kurt said sure. And to weed me out to see if I would stay, he said, down in the basement there's a bunch of camera cases that needed cleaning. So I did that for a week and I kept coming back, and then he took me out on second unit things, and I learned the gear, and then I applied to the union and I was permitted and I got in, and I was a camera assistant for about 6-7 years.
Now, I have to ask, as someone who is originally from Kamloops, which mountains did you like other than Whistler in the province as a ski bum?
You know, I haven't had the opportunity to ski in Kamloops.
Oh yeah,
but you know,
it's a small hill, so
yeah. My brother, when I was 14, I came out and visited him, and he skied at Apex, which isn't in Kamloops, but yeah, it's a different powder.
Yeah, definitely.
Dry and nice.
So how did you transition to editing? What made you make that transition?
I was shooting on a film called Little Women, and this is like 1995, 1996, not the remake, but with Winona Ryder and Susan Sarandon. And I have asthma, and there was a day we were on the acreage, and the day that broom, which is like goldenrod, came into bloom, was also the same day they sprayed the acreage with the white foam that airplanes land in.
Yeah,
I had a severe asthma attack, and I died. I saw my dead dad, and it was it's quite a emotional moment. And because of that, my doctor, and I subsequently to that, I kept having lung infections because I was in different environments, barns or people's with cats. And my doctor said, you have to find a new job. And I was bummed because I wanted to be one of the few female camera operators in Vancouver. And so then I sat at home, totally didn't know what to do with my career. I was 31 at the time. And my same brother that said, what are you going to do with your life, said, why don't you come and visit me in editing? He was editing the pilot to Outer Limits. And I sat there and I watched and I learned, and I sat behind him and picked up the Lightworks manual. And again, I gave them 100 free days. I gave the production. I was the thing that wouldn't leave. I picked up the film from the lab at 7 and dropped it off at the fish flight at the airport. And I just didn't go away, to the point where they were like, well, can you dub? And then the production hired me for like $400 a week. And I restarted my career again.
That's got to be really tough to restart a career. Like that's
especially, not that 30 is old, but at that point when I was 31, I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want to go to school. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I had no value.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I couldn't be on set. Like I was really reactive to anything that kicked off my allergies. So finding a regular environment was really helpful for me. And then my camera background really helps me, I feel, in editing. And I feel like I'm more compassionate to focus pullers because it's not an easy job.
Yeah. Well, what did you take as a camera operator to the editing room? Like, how does it help you?
What shots are needed for what and why they got them. Knowing the background, like when I was on set with all the gear as a second, just humping gear, and I would start moving stuff from one location to the other side of whatever, and directors would go, why are you moving stuff? How do you know? And I said, well, you got this, that, the close-up, the insert, like there's nothing else. Like and they were jokingly said, you should be a director, and I don't want to be a director.
Yeah.
But in the edit suite, I understand every shot hopefully has its value. And some directors will tell you, I just got that, we don't need that, or you watch it and you feel like it's not necessary, but it's a backup shot. So it helps me with the storytelling.
Interesting. So now you've worked on big shows like The L Word. So what's interesting to me, like I think about Firefly Lane because I've been watching that, getting ready for this, and the stories are really intricate. So how did you pick up your storytelling sets? Like, is that something, you've had since you were a kid, or is that something you learned in the edit suite? Like how did you develop that skill?
Honestly, it's from working with the people that I've worked with. I'm the youngest of 5. And if you're the baby in any family, you don't get a voice at the dining room table. So I'm not really an intuitive storyteller at a party, but I visually I've grown to have the sense of what works and what doesn't work. And I did a film ages ago called My Life Without Me that was Pedro Almodovar. And because I haven't gone to film school and I didn't take an editing course, I cut this scene. I jump cut this scene. It's a 7-minute scene of a woman in a car talking, and I jump cut it and I sent it to the director because I thought it was cool, but I don't know the rules. So I thought I thought outside the box, and she saw it. And she was like, I want you to come to set. And I thought I was going to be fired in front of the crew because I did this wacky jump cutting sequence.
Yeah.
And it's still a sequence I'm very proud of. And she said, I don't know how to tell another editor to do what you do. You're coming to Barcelona to finish the film.
Oh, wow.
And so when you ask me that question, I might not know how to tell the story of Jack and Jill went up the hill kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know my intuition is telling me what to do with the shots. And if something is lagging,
interesting.
Yeah. So I listen. I have a silly saying that's cut with your gut.
Yeah.
And if you feel like it's working, it's working. And if you feel like it's not working, like, do these pants make me look fat? Well, it's that kind of thing. It's that it's not working, and what to do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I think about for Firefly Lane, there's a lot of parallel editing, at least in the first season. So what I'm wondering is, when you're cutting something like that, like how much movement or flexibility do you tend to have in terms of rearranging the scenes a bit for the directors if you're finding the story's not working?
On that show, I only was fortunate to cut 2 episodes in the first season, but I cut it as per script. And I always, unless I feel when I'm cutting, this scene should be moved, But
Yeah.
I do believe, and then I'll keep that as an alternate. But I
Hmm.
do believe in showing my vision as per script ish. I might create
Yeah.
a little montage. I might do something different. Um, and on that series, it's working with Maggie
Hmm.
Friedman, who's our showrunner, who's just, she's so awesome in editing, so open to, well, what do you think? What should we do? Do you have any ideas how to that? There was an episode with in season 1 where Tully is shot,
Hmm.
and that you wouldn't believe what it was, and what working with Maggie and her ideas, my ideas, other editors' ideas really created that
Hmm.
an awesome sequence.
Yeah.
So it's working with executive producers and showrunners and directors that are really open to things like, the saying, it's written 3 times on the
Yeah.
script, on the stage. And so to really, like, gloves are off in the edit suite is the most awesome thing when
Yeah.
you have a writer like Maggie who um, is really open to
Yeah.
what can we do? How can we see it? It's good, but how can we make it even better?
So what would you say was one of the more challenging scenes for you in Firefly Lane?
I would say that whole heist, that
So
whole
how did you,
the
yeah, like what was it that sort of set the problem up initially that, or made it more difficult initially?
it was just it wasn't there was nothing wrong with it. It was
Hmm.
just making it more condensed and building that tension, and
Okay.
to really have the audience um, feel it, because it's the fine line of, you read it and you're engrossed in the
Yeah.
script, but then it's like, it's just feeling a little long, a little lagging. What can we do? Do we need this? Do we need that? And also, should we intercut it more with the other
Hmm.
scenes that are happening? Yeah, it was
Well,
great.
it's interesting because I think about tone a lot, and it's whenever I talk to editors, it's one of two things. They're like, it's baked into this footage, it came from set, that's the tone, or it's like, I really have to work the tone in a moment.
Mm.
So how do you like to approach tone yourself in a scene?
I just recently finished a film with Ted Melfi called American Dreamer.
Hmm.
And Ted, other people have suggested it, but he said, "What's the shot you want?" And even if it's just 4K, right now in Firefly Lane we're shooting 6K. But to be able to, uh, if you don't have the shot you need, can you create it? Resizing, split screens, all that, and that will help. Sometimes with the tone, sometimes you need a tighter shot. Sometimes you need a bit more of a breath. And I know a lot of editors use the split screen to tighten, but sometimes it's really fun to use the split screen to slow a 2-shot reaction down, to make the emotion there. Just, even if it's just 6 frames, just to give them that connection of whatever it is, looking, longing, it could be anger. Um, yeah, that's and pacing really helps the tone, I feel.
So how do
And of
you,
course, temp
sorry.
score, temp
Yeah,
scores,
yeah,
temp
of
score.
course. Yeah. And then you get temp love
Yeah.
So how do you like to look at the footage when it first comes in? Like what are you assessing? What are you looking for in the actor's performance and in the footage?
You know what? I'm old school. I watch everything and I see the process, and I the thing I love is when I'm watching it is I try to grab the shot or that little moment that moves me as the first time viewer. So that's what I look for. The beats that hit me, you know, and grab me, I'll put into a little sequence, and then I work with those, as opposed to just, whoa, this take, or this, oh, it's the last take, I got to use that.
Yeah.
Not really.
How the
So
heck do you watch all the footage when nowadays it's like, oh, we'll just let the cameras run. Let's do it again. Let's do it again and shoot as much. Or did you find on things like the newer shows, since you're working on such high level product, that they're not doing that as much?
You know what? I'm fortunate on Firefly Lane and American Dreamer. I think the max I got was 4 hours, a day. And when it's multi-clip, when most of the scenes are multi-clipped, and I watch multi-clips. I'm not going to say I watch each take on its own, but it's 2 clips.
Yeah.
At 4 hours, so it's really only 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a 20-hour day of just footage, and I've just said, you've hired me, this is how I work. I have 20 hours. You've shot an amazing scene or scenes that all need viewing. That's what you hired me for.
Yeah. And
you've got to build that into the schedule, So I just, I don't work a 20-hour day. I work till 10 or 12 hours, and then I put tools down because I'm useless. I'm useless at making a choice at the 14th hour.
Yeah.
No, usually I'll end up recutting what I've done in my 14th hour.
Yeah. That's why I always, when I was in film school, I was always surprised when people would be like, oh, I'm gonna just work through the night, and I'd be like, really? And then the next day they'd be like zonked out, and 2 days later they'd be recutting that scene. I'd be like, you should have just gone to sleep.
Yeah, I will admit I've done that. In my earlier part of my career, I would do that, and then I'd come in the next morning exactly and go, why would I think this music works? Why would I? And it just took me a long time thinking, realizing that it's a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And I'm not helping the production. I'm not helping the director. I'm becoming reactionary to things, not responding, not cutting and creating a story. I'm just hacking things together.
Now, how do you, because you mentioned earlier, you cut that montage, showed it to the director, and that's how you got brought in for that project. How do you like to get on the same page with directors or showrunners, especially when they have a particular vision that might not be, traditional setups or things like that?
This took me a long time to come to terms with my own thing, is that I thought if I stood up for this is like, you're crazy. And then I realized it's like having a conversation with somebody who is of a different political mindset. You're not going to gain anything if you just don't stop and listen. And, directors and producers, directors of feature films have a different, more involvement, I find, than television directors. But so whether it's a director of a feature or an executive producer for TV, they have a vision, and it doesn't, some things might hit me and I might really love this moment, but they're like, yes, that's a great moment, but this is what I want. So it's listening and hearing. I know it sounds like the same word, but it's not. Like, to me, I actually think hearing somebody and absorbing what they're saying helps you become more collaborative. And just to see their point of view is that, I don't like the color green personally, but they love it. So let's do green and understand why. And I think it's a lot of just trying to curb, as an editor, curb what I feel and absorb what they're feeling and what they are wanting, and respecting that.
Interesting. Now, I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
My favorite guilty pleasure is anything Tom Cruise and Eddie Hamilton has edited.
Eddie's great.
And anything Eddie's edited, and lately it's Tom Cruise. So I admire the film crews that do those films and the production value. They're awesome.
It is fascinating. I think it's so weird to me that it's funny because I was talking to Jason, who's producing this. Like a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how it was like Tom Cruise really wanted an Oscar in the 90s, and he realized, like, you know what? I'm just going to give the people what they want. And they're going to be producer, and he just knows how to produce really solid films.
It's on, like, the action,
Yeah.
I was a Mission Impossible
Yeah.
fan as a kid because I grew up with the TV show. So
Mhm.
anything that's that, and it's great filmmaking. It's awesome.
Have you seen Top Gun 2 yet? Or Top
I
Gun
haven't
Maverick?
had the chance. I haven't had the chance yet.
Yeah,
Still a little nervous about because of
same.
my asthma. I'm a little nervous about going to the theater.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it is a theater experience that
Yeah.
because of the way they've done it. But yeah, I'm still a
Yeah.
little nervous too.
I'm hoping to be off at the end of August, so maybe I'll sneak into a matinee when there's
Yeah.
less people in the theater. That's
Well,
for
thank you so
sure.
much for letting me interview you today.
Thank you.
And that's
You
it
have
for
a
this
good day.
week. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching.
Today's episode of Filmmaker U is brought to you by our sponsors OWC. Go to owcdigital.com for all your filmmaking and computer needs. And it's also brought to you by our other sponsors, AJA. Make sure to check out aja.com so that you can see how they can help you in your post-production needs.